Okay, so the last thing we want to see is what happens when we submit the token replacement form after we've submitted the number of inputs form. So let's go ahead and scroll up to the top and see what happens. Again, the first code we hit is this function, which we can skip because we're not executing it just yet. We're initializing the number of inputs as 3, and then we're checking to see if post action is set, which it is because we just submitted a form that had that input. And then we're going to switch based on that action. This time, the value of action isn't generate inputs, it's randomize. But our first line is going to be the same as when we submitted generate inputs. We're setting the number of inputs, this num inputs variable, to post num. So this is why we had that hidden num input inside of our randomizing form. Next, let's go ahead and scroll down so we can see the rest of this. We're going to run a for each loop. We're going to set I to 1, and the condition we're going to check is if I is less than or equal to post num. In this case, that's going to be 10, and so we're going to run through this code 10 times. This code is going to look very similar to our previous step where we took the comma-separated values of replacements and cleaned them up, removing all of the white space with the trim function. So first we're initializing our trimmed replacements variable, and then we're exploding our comma-separated list into an array, and then we're going to loop through each one and add them to a new array called trimmed replacements after we trim away the white space on either side of the replacement value. Each time we run through this, we're going to add an item to this replacements array. We're going to set the key to the token value and then the value to the array of replacements. And this will set up the structure that we can use to pass to the replace tokens with randomness function. So the only difference with this code is that in this previous step, this value here was set to 3, but now it's variable depending on what the user input into the number of inputs form. After all this is done, we're going to run the replace tokens with randomness function, which we went over in the last step, and then we're going to print that out. As we scroll down to the rest of the code, the two things that will change as a result of this form being submitted is the number of inputs, and we already explored where that's used, and then the other item is that this post string here, which will set the value of the string with tokens input, is now set. So it will set it to that submitted value instead of an empty value. So as we look at the example in the browser, after we submitted this form, our string that we added is printed here, and that's a direct result of this code right here. Okay, so we've explored 3 different states of this form. The first is the initial time that it loaded, the second is after we submitted the number of inputs form, and the third is after we submitted the randomizing form. Now saving the data inside of the form, I'm going to jump back to the browser, is a good way to persist values between multiple page refreshes. We're also using a hidden input in order to store some additional information that we can use in the processing. But what if a user inputs data into a form and we want to use it throughout their experience on a site? Sometimes they'll be submitting forms, but sometimes they'll also be clicking on links and navigating to other pages different ways. So the way that we can retain that information is by using sessions. And that's what we're going to start exploring.